Episode 10, The Descent into Darkness. The tension in the camp had reached a fever pitch. The lost city was stirring, its malevolent presence growing stronger with each passing hour. The team was on edge, their senses heightened, their bodies perpetually on alert. And then, the unthinkable happened. Evelyn Ramirez, the archaeologist, disappeared. She had ventured deeper into the city to decipher a particularly complex series of carvings. Her absence was initially attributed to the labyrinthine nature of the city, but as hours turned into days, a cold dread settled over the team. Anya was devastated. Evelyn had been more than a colleague, she had been a friend, a confidante. Her disappearance was a personal loss, compounded by the fear of what it might mean. A frantic search ensued. The team combed through the city, calling out Evelyn's name, their voices echoing through the silent, crystalline structures. They used drones equipped with thermal imaging cameras, hoping to detect any sign of her. But their efforts were fruitless. As days turned into weeks, the realization dawned on them that Evelyn was not lost, she had been taken. The city, they realized, was not just a passive entity, it was a predator, and it had claimed its first victim. Fear gripped the team. If Evelyn, a seasoned explorer, could vanish without a trace, what hope did they have? The city was more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Strange occurrences began to escalate. Equipment malfunctioned with increasing frequency, and the once stable energy fields within the city fluctuated wildly. The team members started experiencing vivid, shared dreams of a dark, shadowy figure, a malevolent presence that seemed to be gaining strength. Anya felt a growing sense of isolation. The world outside was oblivious to the horror they were facing. She was alone with her team, surrounded by a growing darkness, with no one to turn to for help. The loss of Evelyn had shattered their sense of security. They were no longer just explorers, they were soldiers in a war against an unseen enemy. The stakes had never been higher. Paranoia began to creep in. They questioned their every move, every decision. Was the city toying with them, leading them deeper into a trap? Or was there something more sinister at play, a force of evil that was using them as pawns in a larger game? The heart-shaped tree, their lifeline to the forest's wisdom, seemed to be withering faster. Its once vibrant glow was now a feeble flicker, a desperate plea for help. The forest itself was in turmoil. Strange phenomena were occurring with increasing frequency, unexplained lights, eerie sounds, and the disappearance of wildlife. Anya knew that they were running out of time. The city was preparing for something, a final, cataclysmic event, and they were in the crosshairs. The disappearance of Evelyn had cast a long shadow over the team. Fear, once a lurking presence, now dominated their lives. The once hopeful atmosphere in the camp had been replaced by a palpable sense of dread. Anya, the de facto leader, felt the weight of responsibility crushing her. She was not only grieving the loss of a friend, but also grappling with the realization that they were in a fight for survival against an unseen, malevolent force. The lost city seemed to be responding to their fear. The energy fluctuations within its crystalline structures intensified, creating a chaotic, unpredictable environment. The once silent city was now filled with eerie sounds, a cacophony of whispers and groans that seemed to emanate from the very depths of the earth. Strange occurrences multiplied. Shadows moved on their own, taking on grotesque, humanoid shapes. Objects levitated, defying gravity. And then there were the dreams, shared visions of a dark, amorphous entity consuming the world. Ben, the engineer, was the first to break under the strain. His once sharp mind was clouded by fear. He began to see shadows everywhere, convinced that the city was watching him, waiting for the right moment to strike. Maya, the linguist, retreated into herself. The ancient language she had been studying seemed to be taking on a life of its own, filling her mind with disturbing images. She spoke of hearing voices, of being drawn into a world beyond comprehension. Anya knew they were unraveling. The isolation, the constant fear, and the lack of sleep were taking their toll. But they had to hold on, to fight. The fate of the world depended on them. They decided to make a final stand. They would confront the darkness head-on, no matter the cost. The heart-shaped tree, though weakened, was still their only hope. They would use its remaining energy to power a device, a weapon of last resort, designed by Ben. The device was a gamble, a desperate attempt to harness the city's own energy against it. It was a risky proposition, but it was their only chance. As they prepared for the final confrontation, a sense of acceptance washed over them. They knew they might not survive, but they were determined to fight. They were not just protecting themselves, they were protecting the world. The city responded. The ground began to tremble, and a blinding light erupted from the heart of the city. The shadows that had plagued them materialized, taking on monstrous forms. The confrontation was a maelstrom of light and shadow, sound and silence. The lost city erupted in a frenzy of energy, its crystalline structures pulsating with an otherworldly intensity. The shadows, monstrous and malevolent, surged towards them, their forms shifting and changing. Ben activated the device, a sphere of pulsating light that hovered above them, a shield against the encroaching darkness. The device hummed with power, drawing energy from the heart-shaped tree. But the shadows were relentless, their forms growing larger, more menacing. Maya, in a trance-like state, began to chant in the ancient language, her voice rising above the chaos. The ground beneath them trembled, and a surge of energy erupted from the heart-shaped tree. The device responded, its light intensifying, pushing back the darkness. Anya, her spirit ignited by a primal determination, fought alongside her companions. She used the knowledge she had gained from the forest, channeling its energy into her defense. Her movements were fluid, her strikes precise, her spirit indomitable. The battle raged for what felt like an eternity. The city shook, the ground split open, and the sky was filled with unnatural colors. The shadows were relentless, their numbers increasing with each passing moment. But the team fought on, their courage fueled by desperation. Then, something changed. The heart-shaped tree, its energy depleted, began to wither. The device faltered, its light dimming. The shadows, sensing weakness, pressed their advantage. Anya felt a surge of despair. They were losing. The darkness was consuming everything. But in that moment of despair, a spark of hope ignited within her. She remembered the ancient prophecies, the stories of heroes who had overcome impossible odds. With a final desperate effort, she channeled all her remaining energy into the heart-shaped tree. The tree responded, its withered branches bursting into life. A surge of energy, pure and potent, flowed through Anya, revitalizing her spirit. The device, recharged, emitted a blinding light. The shadows recoiled, their forms contorting in agony. The city, its power drained, began to crumble. In the end, it was not a victory, but a stalemate. The darkness had been repelled, but it had not been defeated. The lost city was dying, taking its secrets with it. The team emerged from the ruins, their bodies battered, their spirits broken. But they had survived. They had faced the unknown, and they had endured. As they looked at the remnants of the lost city, they realized that their journey was far from over. The battle against darkness was not a one-time event. It was a constant struggle, a vigilant watch against the forces of evil. And they were the guardians,